Hello, my name is Nicole, and thank you so much for taking the time out to listen. Today I am talking about too much focus on the end result and not enough focus on the process. You see, there's a process that we all go through, whether spiritually, whether out there in the world, working in an organization. And that process is going to lead to the end result. So if the process is negative, if the process is a bumpy ride, if the process is disorganized, if the process is broken, if there isn't enough tools, enough equipment, or what have you, then what happens is that the end result is not to our liking, not to our expectations. And so therefore, we have to either come up with a new plan, either throw away that plan, or tweak something that already exists. But whatever we decide to do, the point is that we have to focus on the process to get to the end result and do the best that we possibly can with what we got and with who we know and anything else. Now, something that I have consistently seen recently is that there is far too much focus on the end result and not enough work and not enough observation and not enough support or anything else during the process. So when the end result turns out bad, people focus on that end result. Well, I didn't like his attitude. I didn't like the way she talked. I didn't like how this information was presented. I wish that people would just, and you fill in the blank. But let us go back. Let us go back to the beginning when people were sitting around and meeting, when people were talking, when people were coming up with all sorts of ideas. And let's talk about the process. Let's talk about what was put in place and what wasn't put in place and how people knew that issues were going to happen, but they didn't choose to come up with anything to solve those issues. Let's talk about preventative maintenance. Let's talk about how we can avoid issues, major ones, during that end result phase. Thinkers are going to go back and look at what led up to certain events. But your gossips, your busybodies, your lazy folks, your ungodly types, your selfish people, those that are even mentally slow, they always want to talk about the end and how someone behaved. They like to focus on the petty things rather than come up with a strategic plan to avoid petty things. Some of you all know what I'm talking about because you're in managerial roles. You're entrepreneurs. Some of you all have led organizations, and some of you all will lead organizations. And this message from a spiritual standpoint is to let you know that if you don't have the process within right, if you don't have your spirit right going into this thing, whatever it might be, then it will fail. I guarantee it. Because a lot of times the reason why processes don't work is because people have this negative concept from the door, a concept that's faulty. They're in a rush to get things done, but they're not thinking deeply about how what they are saying, what they are doing might affect others. They're not looking at all of the potential problems that might result. It's just my way or the highway. It's my idea. And if you don't execute my idea, then the end result is you lose your job. You get laid off. Somebody takes back something they promised you. Your reputation is destroyed. There's so many different things that the enemy is going to come up with if you don't have your spirit right from the start. So if I'm going in wanting to serve others, then I'm going to come up with a process that is going to be beneficial to those who I am trying to help. The spiritual man within us or woman within us, Holy Ghost, Espiritu Santos, that one that is within us is guiding us as long as we are willing to listen, as long as we are willing to take the time out to really concentrate on what it is that we want to do and whether or not it aligns with the Spirit. Because some folks, they pray all sorts of prayers, but then when God starts showing up and showing out, they say, oh, no, I didn't want you to be a part of it. I just wanted to talk to you about it. You just wanted to talk to God about it? God is not like a man or a woman who sits back and listens and doesn't do. God is proactive. God is moving on the hearts of men and women. God is giving you concepts that other people couldn't even imagine, much less have the energy to go ahead and do something with it. And then you want to tell God that, no, I don't think so. I don't want you a part of it. You want to suppress the people of God. Some of you all, not all, that are coming in and advising you of both the pros and cons. God's people are not yes men. God's people are not coming into establishments and only doing what the details are of their job and only that. No, a lot of God's people think outside the box. A lot of God's people go above and beyond. We're talking about genuine believers, genuine folks who look at God as being their boss. The types of individuals who know that they will be held accountable if they don't do what is righteous and true. Jesus served people. Jesus was concerned about humanity. Jesus saved. And Jesus still saves if you're willing to come to him. It's not just a spiritual thing when it comes to walking with Christ, when it comes to involving, dare we say it, the paranormal into your life. But it also affects the natural. It affects men and women's ideas and presentations and projects and so forth. And this is why some people don't want believers involved in too much of anything, because they don't respect the spiritual. They don't like the spiritual. They don't look at the spiritual as being real to them. And so when they don't see any of this being real, being something that they can use in their day-to-day living, they dismiss it. And then they dismiss you if they know you're a believer, or they figure out a way to get you out because you're shining a little bit too brightly. You see, believers come into organizations and they shine. Believers come to events and they shine. True believers, people who are really walking with the Lord, who are not apostates, who are not backsliders, who are not pretenders. So they stand out amongst men and women. Some of you all who do not understand spiritual things, you can't wrap your head around that. You just think that, well, she's a star player, he's a star player, and that's all you see. But if you look beyond that, there is a God behind them, a God that they pray to, a God that others will pray to on their behalf. And so if you are trying to run a successful operation, it would make sense to allow people in your circle who are not only good workers, but wise. And God blesses us with the wisdom. He blesses us with the wisdom. And if you don't feel that you're very smart at times, or you feel a bit dumb to things, then it would make sense to go to the Lord and pray and ask the Lord to enhance your cognitive capabilities, to give you the intelligence to be able to do a job successfully, effectively, efficiently, you see. But some people are not like that. They think that they can do everything in their own strength, and as a result they burn out, and then it's on to the next job, on to the next project, on to the next opportunity, because I can no longer do this, that, and the other. process does require education. I know there are some spiritually minded folks that are so heavenly minded that they're no earthly good that they don't want to educate themselves. They figure that all they have to do is just pray. But no, you need to do more than just pray. God did bless men and women with the insight to come up with all sorts of processes. And in order to execute effectively, you've got to be educated on the inner workings. And sometimes you may not like the inner workings, and they may, even cross the line between what is good and what is evil. But you do need to know. And you do need to be able to counter attack things, and you come up with rebuttals and know your craft and know it well. Sometimes you got to peep the competition. Sometimes you've got to sit amongst individuals and pick their brain. There are some people who are just not willing to do this sort of thing because they figure that I've got enough degrees, enough people in my inner circle, enough this and that. I don't need to do anything more. Meanwhile, the process is speaking to them loud and clear. It's a failure. It's not working. You need to get a new group of folks to talk to come up with a better strategy, to come up with a better plan. You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Did you hear what I just said? You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. So to those individuals who are your critics, who are, talking quite negatively about what you're capable of doing, you've got to strengthen yourself, motivate yourself, inspire yourself. And part of doing that is getting enough rest. A simple tip, but the results are huge. Positive results, to be more specific, because if I get enough rest each and every night, I'm going to come up with things that I wouldn't have been able to come up with when I was tired and not really thinking and not really paying close attention to what people were saying to me. It's a wonder that people get on the road with so few hours of sleep and not get into accidents, or show up at meetings and they're still their eyes are still wide open, and they'll tell you things like, I only got 1 hour, 2 or 3 hours of sleep. It's amazing. Eventually, sugar crashes and caffeine crashes and everything else. And some people are still able to do their jobs quite well. But I will tell you from personal experience, sooner or later, you can't keep up with the pace. And something does eventually snap. It snaps on the home front. It snaps at work. And then you're rushing to get out of the home or the workplace to go on a vacation somewhere, only to come back and do the same thing all over again. You're not eating well. You're not getting adequate rest. And you're still messing around with the same sorry circle that's not doing too much of anything but venting and complaining and passing the buck. Like I said, this message is for all sorts of organizations and groups and people who are connected. There's a lot. There's a lot to take in. But I hope that when you approach any idea, any process, anything that God has moved on your spirit, or something that you just came up with, that you will consider the process, how you are going to execute things in a way that serves people and that's beneficial to them and that's not inundating them or burning them out. And as soon as you see the writing on the wall, when you see the signs that things are not working, casting aside your pride and just going in there and fixing that thing, casting aside the stupid stuff that people tell you, like, well, we can't do that and it's not feasible, and please, If people are dropping off like flies, something is not working. If people are flipping out and having attitudes, then something is going on that is leading them up to that point of no return. And if you are an effective leader, you're going to see what is taking place. If you're discerning, you're going to see what is taking place, and you're going to nip some things in the bud. All of this blaming and shaming and minimizing and denying and all of this other stuff that goes on during the process, and then when things hit the fan, I'm putting it nicely, at the end, then folks want to focus in on that one that left, on that one that was let go, on that one that's no longer with us. And they're talking ugly about that person or about the process that they were a part of, when they could have been speaking up, when they could have been doing some better things. But, we need a scapegoat, right? And it doesn't pay to talk so much about that one who has left, or that one that flipped out, or that one who, raised what. Because sooner or later, if that process isn't fixed, you just might be that one that'll flip out one day. Talk about the kettle and the pot. And people will then have something to say about how you flipped out, how you didn't get it together, how you shoulda, coulda, woulda. And then they're going to use you as a scapegoat. And this is what happens in a lot of organizations, with a lot of employers. People are constantly looking for somebody to blame. Meanwhile, the person is long gone. And if you look at the dates, you'll find out that that person was gone in 2000 whatever. So why is it that they're still being blamed for something months and years later? That's because the problem is still there. That problem person, that problem system, that problem whatever is still there. And nobody is zeroing in on that particular area, that particular department, that particular rule, that particular procedure. They're just not. And so the elephant will still be in the room as long as people refuse to speak up, as long as people feel too scared to speak up. And in the end, the results are detrimental. So I thank you so much for taking this time out to listen to this thought-provoking message. Please do check the description box for anything related to your situation. And to God be the glory.